Welcome everyone to We Are Not Waiting. This is our third and final webinar for this series. It's wonderful to have you here. I really appreciate those of you who are and have attended the last two sessions. We welcome you back. While we wait for everyone to join, I'm going to hit some prompts in the chat. The first one is always the fun one, let me just make sure I've got my settings correct here. So I've asked you, welcome, and where in the world are you joining us from today? While we wait for people to join the room, let's just let everyone know where we're joining in from. I've made sure to allow the chat to talk to everyone. For those of you typing in chat, just make sure that you hit the button. You might be sending only to the host and panelists right now. And if you just above where you type in your chat, there's a little blue button that says host and panelists or everyone. You can switch that over to everyone so then everyone can see where you're from. We've got some people joining in from Lithuania and Worcester, South Africa. Our one speaker, Sarah, is coming in from Ghana. We did have someone joining in that is sent to host and panelist from Tanzania as well as Ireland. So we're definitely getting a good mix here. For another minute or so, I've got a second prompt for you. This one should go a bit more on a different level. We're going to ask you. What system are you working in and how are you trying to change it? Drop a few words in the chat and let us know what system you're in, and how you're changing it, or if maybe you're just an observer kind of working in another field right now and wanting to understand this work, let us know in chat. We'll give that another minute or two while we wait for our final speaker to join us. If you do go ahead and share and chat, I'm probably going to read yours out as our final our final little gift from the first part of this session. Is anyone brave enough to tell us what system they're working in and how are you trying to change it? No one has yet. There we go. We've got Abigail who has shared that she is currently an observer, but really trying to get into impacting the educational system. Lovely. I would say that I probably fall into the same bracket. Hi, Lucy. Yes, you are allowed to write in the chat. Currently, you're sending to just host and panelists. Above where it says type message here, you'll see a blue little box. Click on that box and select everyone, and then your message will come through to everyone. Lovely. I encourage you to still share in chat the system you currently work in and how you're trying to change it. For now, what we're going to do is I'm going to transition to the first part of our session and hand over directly to our moderator for the session, who will be guiding us through this conversation today. So without further ado, I welcome Daniel Creutzfeldt, and it's over to you.
Hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me. It's going to be a great conversation today, really interesting. It's my pleasure to moderate this. So today, as the other Daniel mentioned, we are in the final and third of the webinar sessions. This one will be centered around kind of the second three themes in the We Are Not Waiting Youth Anthology project. So kind of the main three that we're going to talk about and which the speakers each have direct experience practicing, kind of on the one hand, mutual aid, and creating communities of care and youth-led networks that kind of help tackle the problem of climate change through care and through community engagement. Then we have peace building. So this is all about kind of repairing fractures and wounds that have existed and promoting social cohesion as a way of moving forward towards a more collective climate solutions. And then you also have a bit on how art can be a kind of powerful way of tackling climate crisis outside of the usual channels, and that's something that we all want those who participate in the youth anthology to give their perspectives on as well. So now let me give a brief introduction to the panelists we have today before handing over to them. So first we have Sarah Kpoh. Sarah Kpoh is an educator, youth climate advocate, and disability inclusion leader with more than 8 years of experience. She holds an MPhil in disability, rehabilitation, and development from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, and serves as disability inclusion officer for the Ghana Youth Environmental Movement. She is a climate reality leader and runs the Read to Shine initiative and the Pearl Sun Rays Solar Project. Second, we have with us Jean-Salman Marre. Jean-Salman Marre is a strategy manager at Friendship, a Bangladeshi NGO working with some of the world's most climate vulnerable communities across the country's river islands, coastal regions, and Rohingya refugee camps. In this role, he applies systemic thinking to Friendship's integrated development model, spanning health, education, climate adaptation, disaster management, and sustainable livelihoods, and has represented the organization at COP and other international forums, translating on-the-ground realities into strategic engagement with governments and embassies and multilateral bodies. Half French and half Bangladeshi, Jean-Salman brings a cross-cultural, cross-disciplinary lens to his work, grounded in a bachelor's thesis in theoretical physics from the University of Glasgow and a master's in strategy and management of international business from ESSEC. His work sits at the intersection of frontline humanitarian delivery and systemic strategy, focus on how integrated community-led approaches can hold together where sector-specific responses fracture. And then, still waiting to join us, but we hope he can be with us during the session, is Jeffrey Mwangi Kimoto, also known as Palma Wavasho. So he is a Kenyan climate activist who combines art and advocacy. Through spoken word, poetry, digital storytelling, and grassroots mobilization, he brings climate issues to new audiences and helps young people see themselves as part of the solution. So without further ado, let me hand over to the speakers to kind of tell us a bit more about what they're working on at the moment, some of the things that are going well, and also some of the challenges perhaps that they're facing in their current work. So perhaps Jean-Salman, if you want to start, just telling us a bit about yourself.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel. Right, so I'm Jean-Salman Marre, a strategy manager at Friendship NGO, as you've just heard. So a bit of context first. So we work in Bangladesh, which is one of the most climate affected regions of the world. And within that, we work with the most climate affected and hard to reach people and communities in the country. And here we serve about 10 million people, a bit less than 10 million people, to give them healthcare, education, and so on. So a bit of context for the country as well, which is that we have a population of about 180 million people, and we're number 8 in the world, in the world's largest countries. But we're in the size, an area of about the size of Scotland. And we have 3 of the world's major rivers systems passing through us. And as one of the poorest and most climate affected regions in the world, where nowadays we receive about 2 to 3 cyclones a year. And we can get up to 4 floods as well. And each flood, because of the volume of water coming down from the Ganges and all these rivers, can radically change the geography of the land by several kilometers per season. So we live in an incredibly unpredictable area. And in this area, us, so we Bangladeshis, we don't really have, like, our youth don't have the luxury of being called the youth. By 13 or 14, a lot of them have to help with their parents' evacuations. By 16, obviously, I think everyone knows. By 16, they have to help with farming in quite strenuous conditions. And by 18, they really need to have full economic responsibility, social responsibility. A lot of them marry at 18, if we're lucky. And so by the end of their youth, so by 35, 36, as is defined by the UN, it's very possible that we see grandparents. So in such conditions, we really don't have the luxury of any token help or any token work. Everything we do has to be useful and integral to all our communities and every part of the community. So I'd like to say actually that we don't actually have youth empowerment programs. Empowerment is a natural result of our programs in health, education, anti-child marriage, and so on, and so on. And let me give you a couple of examples. One of them comes from Molita. So she was an 18-year-old lady, one of our 3,000 flood volunteers who we train to take up disaster relief and emergency health responsibilities. And she took it because before she received any orders from anyone, she took it upon herself to build a bamboo raft and save 24 people from her community. And this is a woman in Bangladesh, and she took responsibility for it because she felt as if she was able to, and she was. And I want to also go into how the social settings are so important. Like through our community paralegals, which are pillars of the community, and who are all youth, I have to add, like they're almost all under 30. They're all in their early 20s usually when they're trained as legal aids. Yes, the legal aids to get the governmental assistance and so on, and to help with disputes and local disputes and assistance. They are vital parts in preventing child marriage, which then really helps our education system, which means that our people are better educated, our children are better educated, and the end result of this and a much larger system means that two young ladies, both 18 at the time, 18, 19, went to plead to the EU Parliament in 2023 in English. And they were able to plead their case directly to the Parliament. So one thing if I want to say one thing, it's that the youth aren't just the future. They are also the present. We are integral parts. We are powerful in ourselves. We're integral parts of the communities we're in, as long as we understand that we can have the responsibilities if we have the training and if we are able to find the resources we need in order to make the changes happen. As long as we feel and as long as we really understand that we do matter in a grand scheme of things. So, right, thank you. I'll pass it along back to Daniel.
Amazing. Thank you, Jean-Salman. That was incredibly interesting. And just to like spark conversation, I want to first go to Sarah Poe, and you can perhaps tell us a little bit about what you're working on, what the challenges are, and any potential points of resonance you see between what Jean-Salman was just talking about and your specific case. Thanks. I'll hand over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are watching me from. I am Sarah Kpoh from Ghana, an educator and a youth advocate. Every innovation, what can I do to help my community? Are we sitting idle, waiting for the government to change everything, for the government
Hi, Sarah. Sorry to interrupt you. I think you're breaking up slightly. Maybe we ask that you turn off your
Other
camera.
engineers that are on the field in Africa and in Ghana
Sarah, are you there?
are working, the system is not working. The system is not working. But the question make the system work. I believe system change doesn't be politicians have meeting, but it actually happen. It actually happen in our classrooms, in our various communities, at the health sectors and at the marketplace. Because one, if the systems are not working, who are supposed to be responsible to be held responsible, and that is sustainable development goal. The question is, are systems ready? Are our schools ready? And our communities ready? Are young people ready? Because they say the future is for us. We don't want to leave anyone behind. So if the youth are sitting idle, yes, sometimes the system doesn't create the room for us to be able to impact lives. But are we also trying to entertain, to be able to know that fine, this system, we also have to do something to change. This is what drive my innovation by looking at my community. Growing up without utilities like electricity and a good pipeline water, which affected my education badly, I saw that, okay, then let us start something like a solar project where students will be able to get small lamp. Yeah, it wasn't enough. I started small and I was able to at least acquire 50 solar lamps for students in off-grid communities to be able to study after sunset. Yes, it wasn't bad, it wasn't enough, but it was something that I started at the right stone. So the assembly member also took it upon himself to be able to do what to provide some of this solar lamp for students in other communities. Yes, one person have started, another person has copied the same project and it's not so it is like we are not trying to solve isolated problem, but we are trying to partner with each other to collaborate. Then we move on to finding out in a community where we have people with disability. Some acquired it at a certain age. Some it doesn't really come because they were given birth to with that condition. So we look at it as okay, the health system, now that technology is evolving, running the world, do we have any tele app that can help people who are surviving from stroke to be able to gain rehabilitation access at home? So we came out with an AI called RehabMate that will help persons that are suffering from stroke or those who are recovering from stroke to be able to practice rehabilitation at home instead of going to a faraway hospital. Some do not even get access to money to be able to access those services. Yes, I do not have the technical knowledge, but having the idea about the problem because of my education and disability, I contacted experts that are in the field that are having AI knowledge and technological knowledge to be able to develop the app. So yes, youth can make it. We can make it if we change our mindset towards changing the system. Instead of sitting down blaming the system, whereby the system is not a human being. Yes, the team said the human side of system change. The human had to start something, then the system will also change in addition. So it comes with a paradigm shift in our mindset by saying that, okay, we all belong to the community. Let us all try to do something. Yes, in a community where we have literacy problem, students in urban areas have access to books. Some, their parents are politicians, they are lawyers, and they are nurses, they have money. But in the rural and underserved communities, where I teach precisely, some students do not even have access to one storybook or textbook to be able to study. It affects their educational system. Their literacy is low, their numeracy is low, and it's affect them in their end of system. So at the end of the day, how are we impacting their lives? So we also started another project called Pass It On Project, where we go to the urban areas, plead with parents that have access to books that are gathering dust in their shop to be able to bring them to the rural communities where we distribute them to students who are lacking access to these educational resources. so that they will be able to also study. And then we formed a small reading club whereby the books will not just sit there, but the students will actually make good use of the books that they are supposed to be giving at the end of the day. And then we also have another system. There was a story in 2012 in Ghana where a student called Mohammed Salih was not able to write the basic education exam. The reason being that he has problem with his hand. He couldn't hold his pen. We also have story of Farida Badwi, who is now a technological expert in Ghana. Yes, during her time, she couldn't hold pen to write because she has a disability that affected her hand. So some resort to oral examination where our educational system in Ghana mostly do not support this kind of oral examination. Yes, Mohammed was compelled to hold the pen with his lips while he writes. Daniel, can you imagine the number of words that Mohammed will be able to write within 1 hour or 2 hours before the examination time will elapse? So we came up with an idea, an innovative idea by bringing out a board called Write Ease Board. This board helps children or students with disability that affect their hand and those that have problems with their grips, they have weak grip, they have problem with letter formation, they have problem with holding pen and pencil to write. This board helps them because the board comes with an adaptive stylus. It comes with a pencil attached to it and a pen. So it's helped the student to be able to practice letter formation and be able to practice handwriting easily. So at the end of the day, with consistent practice, they'll be able to come back to use the pen and the pencil to transfer whatever they have practiced on the board onto the books that they are using. Yes, all this comes with several challenges. Yes, they were idea, they were concept. The challenge is the resources, the funding. Yes, the youth have ideas. We wake up with new ideas every day. But one of the challenges the youth face actually is the funding. Yes, especially those who are in rural and underserved communities. They don't have the connection. They don't have organizations that they will partner with. And some, because they are now starting, when they reach out to bigger organizations, to have this number of years experiences before you will be able to allow to partner with such organizations. So you could see that a youth that have an idea to impact lives will sit idle because one, you don't have the funding, you don't have the resources, you don't have the necessary network connection and partnership to be able to impact lives using this process. So I think the system change actually shouldn't just be solving isolated problems, but we should also look at what can we do to help the youth who are having the idea in impacting lives. Those that have innovative ideas. Once the idea is innovative, fine, they should be able to have some kind of small grants or funding to be able to run it. Other organizations can reach out. Can we partner with you so that we can push forward your idea? I read in a chat, someone was saying like, okay, I've not started yet, but I want to start with migration. Another person said, I want to start with education. But I'm sure the question that is going through their mind is, how do I start? Where do they start from? We're in a rural community where you don't know anybody. How are you going to start in changing the system? So I think the system change, we should focus mainly on one, providing resources for the youth to be able to impact lives using their innovative ideas. It has to start with empathy, and we all have to know that we all belong to the system. The system is not for just one person, it's for all of us, both young and old, where we'll be able to impact lives and to be able to achieve our goal of not leaving anyone behind. With just 4 years left to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal, I'm sure we can still make it when we all change our mindset towards changing the system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was fascinating. And I think there's a lot of shared themes between what you and Jean-Salman said, especially about the fact that people are already finding their own solutions and they're ready to get going. And also this idea that it's not just about the youth as a category on its own, but also everyone of all ages kind of taking part and participating in building something alternative. That's the spirit of the "we are not waiting." You're both not waiting. You're building alternative systems in the here and now, as you said, Jean-Salman. The idea that the youth are not only the future but the present. I was wondering for both of you, given all these structural barriers that you faced. Especially at the beginning of your projects, what were kind of the main strategies and things that you try to kind of link different communities together, whether it be different rural communities, or I know in case of Jean-Salman, you've worked with different Rohingya refugee camps, and also if you can elaborate on, in your experience, how was it that people who were already suffering under these circumstances, often having to work full time at a very young age, or without the resources for education, how was it that they were able to find the time and the space to start building something new and a new system? Or was that something that you actively kind of try to provide through your respective organizations? I guess I can go back to Jean-Salman first if you want to start with them.
Right. And I think what I'll say, I think Sarah will say very similar things as well. But that at the end of the day, if you start with an honest need of the community, and like you do it and you try very genuinely to fulfill the need. Now, this implies that you know what the need is, which means that if you're not a part of that community, you need to listen. Don't come in with preconceived ideas. You need to listen to what they say and what they don't say. Because after all, if someone is complaining about rashes, it might not be a rash medicine. It might be a viral epidemic that's going on, right? So you have to listen to what they say and what they don't say. I think that and this is what I've personally seen, at least with the Rohingya camps, and this is how our organization started as well, is that if people understand that you are there to help them, genuinely help them, with no strings attached on the backside, people are very receptive to that. And I think it's like the hostility comes in because from what we have, because in Bangladesh, at least with the Rohingyas, as soon as the Rohingyas, the refugees, over 1 million refugees came into the country, there were 4,000 NGOs going there. Most of them were small NGOs, and a lot of them were putting up very big billboards and weren't doing much else. Right. So the Rohingyas, they're not dumb. They know that people are here to make money off of them. And I think that as soon as you go honest, as soon as you're honest with them and they see the honesty, they are willing to work with you. And I think that it's one thing to say, okay, you need to give, you absolutely do need to give them time, you need to give them space. You need to give them the ability to solve things themselves as much as possible because they are intelligent. It's just that they don't know, they don't have all the tools. And as you said, you need to give them a bit of peace somewhere. So for us in the Rohingya camps, it's the schools. So we build the schools not just to act as schools, but also to act as general community centers. So that people could go there and even like after school hours, that they can be used for other things as a center outside of the violence that they've suffered, outside of all of the times. This is a safe space where they can genuinely be safe and more or less cool and whatever. And I don't want to take too much from what Sarah said. So, but I would say that a lot of the times, don't be afraid, because I know that when I was a bit afraid when I was personally starting up, it's like, okay, someone has done this before. Yeah, but there's always more people to help. There's always someone else. There's always something you can do individually, and even if it's one analysis or one blog or like one piece of help or like one just a video call to a local school to teach them a bit of English once a week, or like something, or even less than that, like even something basic can show people that, oh, they're not forgotten. And that can give them a tiny bit of dignity and a tiny bit of peace that they might need to make the system turn, you can say. Like, as you can say, it just keeps puts a bit of oil in the engine to keep the system from turning and seizing up and keep people from desperation. So, yeah, so Daniel, back to you.
Amazing. Thanks. Yeah, that was really resonates. And I think, yeah, the main point of what you're saying of just listening to people to what they actually need and giving them a bit of peace is the kind of cornerstone of building a kind of new alternative system. And I see that connection between Sarah and Jean-Salman of the school aspect. I was wondering, Sarah, also based on what Jean-Salman was saying about how schools acted as not just schools, but also as spaces where something different could be created. Does that resonate with your experience of rural schools in Ghana, of kind of spaces of empowerment, not just education in the traditional sense? I don't know if you want to comment on that, Sarah.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Yes, Ghana educational system, sometimes we have different sectors. We have the TVETs, where we have the technical aspect. We also have the STEM education, where they focus mainly on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And then we also have the mainstream secondary school system, where we learn the general arts and then the business and other courses. Yeah, and then there's an addition that is the visual art, the art system where they learn about, and then we also have theater art system. So all this educational system that we have in Ghana collaborate and come together to be able to. So youth can look at it. If I don't work in the mainstream secondary school, can I use my artwork? Yes, some people are very good at artwork. Can I use my artwork to tell about climate change? Can I use an artwork to tell about peace building or conflicts happening as a place? Yes. First, we have to prioritize and also plan ahead. Some of the youth are still students. Yeah, especially myself, I'm a student and running other things, and time is also not my side and all that. That's one. You just have to look at it. You can start somewhere, not big, something small. You prioritize, you plan ahead. Then you talk to others who are like my co-speaker rightly said, you can't do it alone. You are supposed to engage others, contact others, those who have made it on the field. And when we do that, and then one other thing, we have to also accept imperfection. No system is perfect. In the developed and also the developing world, no system is perfect. We are all just running through. So we should accept imperfection and look at the system, if the education system, the health system, or the cultural system, wherever you think your expertise are needed as a youth. I think we should be able to start when we together we'll be able to achieve our main goal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And that's really important what we say about accepting imperfection in what we do, especially at the beginning when you're trying to get things off the ground and something where you really have to believe that change is possible in order to keep going. So I think before we open up to questions from the audience, I just wanted to hear from both of you kind of in the medium term, in the next months or even years, what is the kind of shape that you want your projects to start taking, whether it's linking together more communities or I was wondering whether conversing with traditional structures of power like governments would you think that would be sometimes detrimental or sometimes helpful? Obviously, Sarah, you spoke of the need for funding, and that's obviously something that would help a lot, and that requires conversation with the current systems as well. But yeah, I just wondered, what would you say is kind of in the short and medium term, are you hopeful about where things are going on the ground, and what are the kind of obstacles that you think you're facing, and how you can perhaps think of overcoming them? And so I'll start again with Jean-Salman, if you want to comment on that.
Right. Let me sidestep your comment just a tiny bit for a moment and talk about hope a bit. So I think that at the end of the day, hope is really something that you absolutely have to give yourself. It's a choice that you have to make, and you have to give it to yourself, especially when you don't think objectively that there's any reason to hope. Because some of the communities we've been to, it's been a bit depressing, but without hope, there's no hope for change. There's nothing that can shift anymore. So it's for me, it's the very, very basic aspect. Now, as for what I hope for the future of us right now, it's that I think that we're doing a lot of things right. I think that we're doing we're already quite big with health, education, all these things. But now I think I'd like to call attention to us on the international floor and get other people interested in what we're doing. Because for a long time we were a bit under the radar internationally, and now we're really trying to both get our system out there because we can't go to Ghana or to some another place of Africa or South Africa or Ethiopia and solve their problem. We can't do it because we know how Bangladesh works. We don't know how they work, but we're doing something right. So if someone wants to come here and see what they think they can take back with them and perfect and adapt it to their environment, that I think can help us a lot and help us to bring the system away. And coming back, I think if people can come to us and tell us, oh, we're doing this and that wrong. Or actually, there's this thing that is being used in Ghana, there's this thing that's being used in Ethiopia that could help us. I think having and creating the dialogue and that link will really help us being integrated in a much broader system and can really help us be a part of because we are all a part of the global community, and I think it will really help us from here on out to get new ideas in and for us to be able to teach you everyone else what we have already done, even though it's imperfect.
Amazing. Thanks so much. And yeah, that makes sense of kind of the importance of also like South-South connections in some of the Southern Hemisphere as well as globally, generally. Yeah, so finding solutions and talking to each other, which I guess in a way we're doing a bit right now. We hope to plant the seeds for that through more kind of showcasing the ideas of what different people have around the world, because as you've seen in this webinar, there's a lot of people doing amazing things that can help each other out. And yeah, I just wanted to ask Sarah the same question, yeah, about hope for the near future. What are the kind of things standing in the way right now, and what you kind of where you see all the different organizations that you're running at the moment and helping with all the communities, how you see how you want them or see them growing going forward.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Yeah, actually, I see a bright future for us. Yeah, for us, the youth especially, I see a bright future for us. Looking at technology right now, we have AI. Yeah, I can be in Ghana and communicate with you as we are doing currently. You are not here in Ghana, but I can see you, I can communicate with you. So technology has come to help, it has come to stay. So one, we can collaborate with each other anywhere we are in the world. But Nelson Mandela once said, it is in our hands to make the world a healthy place and a wealthy place. So we must do something. We must do something as youth to be able to make the world a better place. We can use technology. You can be there, you have an idea, you communicate with your friend in another country. Oh, what is happening in your country? How do we come together to solve this problem? And I think when we do that, it will help a lot. And I also want to say that community must become active. Yeah, there are some people, once you send a project to their community, they feel like you have gone to UN or maybe the British, or you have gotten a huge organization there that is funding your project. So once you send that project to the community, one, they may even reject the idea. Two, the people that are beneficiaries of the program will start telling you, give us money, do this, do that, do that. At the end of the day, if your care is not taken, you are going to leave that project as a So the community should be active listening. They should be active involved. They should involve themselves actively in projects like this. And then also, young people must be recognized as innovators, leaders, and at the same time, agents of system change. We must be recognized, actually, must be recognized because looking at Ghana's currency, the budget they read, then the one they have given to the municipal assemblies, we see that a portion wasn't even allocated to projects that the youth to be able to embark on. So some civil society organizations took it upon themselves to fight for it. So if we are not being given a seat at the table, how do we feed? How do we get knowledge? How do we get information to be able to feed others? So I think, yes, we have a bright future when all these things are made available for the youth. We are being recognized. Technology has come to stay. We embrace it. Yes. I'm sure there are some youth out there that still say that AI is evil because of their religious background. Some still see it to be like, I don't want to be involved in internet or digital world because it is against my faith. It is this, it's only porn or whatever, or like immoral thing that they show on it. Yes, we can also still use Instagram, not only for other showing pictures or private parts or whatever, but we can use it to advocate for a cause. You can use it to advocate for a cause. Some people, they have social media handle. The only thing we do is to send our pictures. Hey, this is me today. This is a new hair I bought. This is a friend I met today. No, we can still use it to fight for a cause. From there, you take it up, you talk to people, you collaborate with people, and I think at the end of the day, we will be able to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and it's great to hear that you're both hopeful. That's always good, and I hope that everyone at this session has been as inspired as I am by the on the ground work that you're doing, and yeah, just kind of in the spirit of not waiting for solutions, but creating them yourselves with the people around you. So I think now would come the time if anyone from the audience would have any questions for either of the speakers, that this would be the moment. I don't know if there are some already in chat, then or.
So we don't have any in chat at this point, but I've raised my hand as I'm going to take the opportunity to ask the first question. And it's mainly because unfortunately our third speaker couldn't join us. And so I do want to try and rope in a bit of storytelling and bring the conversation towards that. And one thing that specifically has stood out for me is this idea of imperfectionism. And in many ways, even Jean-Salman apologizing for it being imperfect. And, to what point do we start questioning like the narrative we play in our mind that solutionism is the story we reinforce, the culture we reinforce? Solutionism inherently, in the past was you create something to the point where it is 100% perfect, and as a result, and it remains there. And that way of thinking, I don't think longer serves us to the point where imperfectionism grounds you in the process, and you then respond and constantly remain in a process of respond, analyze, respond, analyze, etc. And I wanna maybe just prod at the two speakers we do have on in how has that journey kind of been for you? What are the stories that are culturally like reinforcing your ways of doing work? We generally, when people talk about storytelling, we talk about communications and how things go out externally. But what are you culturally reinforcing within yourself in your work to produce what you're producing? What are the stories you tell yourself to carry on doing the work you're doing? And I'll have that. I'd love to hear from both speakers on that.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand correctly, on one hand, it's about imperfections, so how we see imperfections, and secondly is the stories we keep on telling ourselves, correct?
Yeah.
In order to keep on going. Okay, so I think that, at least for us, that the idea of perfect, it doesn't really exist. I think there's a direction. But the thing is, it's always perfect in a certain context, and you can try to always get closer and closer and closer to context, but it's a bit asymptotic, as in you'll never really reach perfection because there's always going to be something to change in order to get it that tiny bit better, on one hand, and two, if you overfit something, um, to a situation, let's say you make a once, like say you try and like, for example, for our schools, if we overfit a Rohingya situation, it's not going to fit anything else in the country. And so we have to have this balance of something that is, we build a base and then we'll perfect it as we go on. And the way, for example, our schools in the Rohingya camps and the schools, for example, in the north of the country with our chores, where the islands move every year, and the schools in the southwest, where it's the locals, but they face cyclones instead of floods. We have a basic level of how a school works, but then we can only perfect it as things go on, as we get the experience over the course of years. And I think that that's one thing that is imperative because we don't start off with a perfect solution. We perfect the solution as we start, in a way. Now, as for the stories, I think one thing that's really like that pushes me is that after you've realized something, like emotionally, to the point where, because of course everyone knows that, okay, X amount of people are refugees and X amount of people are dying, blah blah blah. Like everyone understands that it happens. As soon as you realize it emotionally, as soon as it touches you, for me anyways, the only real response is to feel a bit of a sense of responsibility to it, at least in some small way, at the very least. Like yeah, like the realization for me by definition leads to responsibility. And for me, if you feel like a responsible person, you have to make a choice. Either you go for it or you choose something else that you're responsible for. And for me, it's as long as you keep on making the choice of going on, of carrying on, of learning more, but still doing something, it's good. Now, okay, I have a problem with perfectionism in general, as you could probably guess, because I'm talking about it so much. But basically, the main point is something is better than nothing most of the time. And as long as your intention is there, and as long as you always wish to improve it, it's gonna work out. Like, don't worry about it. It's gonna work out. No matter how low you start off, it's gonna be fine.
Thank you. Sarah, could I get your insights?
All right, thank you, Daniel. Yeah, so about the second, I'll tackle the second question before moving to the first one. The first question has to do about perfection. Yeah, imperfection and perfection. Yeah. To me, I see perfection is an enemy of progress. Yes, perfection. Waiting for everything to be perfect is an enemy of progress. I looking at this story on campus, I was supposed to submit an assignment that I've already completed. But with my quest of perfecting it, let me correct this mistake, let me do this, let me put some graph here, let me put a table here. Yeah, I missed the deadline in submitting that work and I've lost the mark. Yeah, since then I've learned my lesson that I don't have to wait for the perfect time to do everything. Yes, there's no perfect time to start. There's no perfect time to do something. Perfection is an enemy of progress. And system change doesn't require everything to be perfect before we act. It doesn't require a perfect solution. What is needed is a solution that can grow, that can evolve, that can thrive, and that can solve people's problems and needs. Once the solution is able to achieve all this, it doesn't matter whether it is perfect, it doesn't matter whether you have all the time, you have all the resources, waiting for, okay, I need 20 million Ghana cedis or dollars to be able to start a project. You may never start in any way, you may never start it. You are waiting for me to let me finish with my PhD before I start with this project. It may never materialize. So why don't you start whilst you are in a senior high school, you are in a tertiary first year or undergrad? Yeah, you should be able, by the time you'd have been getting to the PhD, you can imagine where that project will take you to. It will go far. So I think there's no perfect solution. We only need solution that can evolve over time, that can solve people's real needs, and that can grow. And the first question that has to do with storytelling. Yes, I think storytelling shouldn't be about me talking, yeah, I've achieved this, I've achieved that, but it should be, we should look at the why factor. Why am I doing this? Why am I running this project? This innovative idea. Why am I doing this? Like that should rather be our motive. Instead of you going out there publishing, okay, I was able to do this, I have done it, telling the story all in the name of praising ourselves and putting ourselves out there for people to know that we are doing something. I want us to rather look at the storytelling from the angle of why. Why am I doing this? So once we tell the story using why, it will inspire others because it will relate to their story, and they will also use their story to tell a story because we all have a story. So once I'm trying to tell my story, okay, this is how my story is impacting life, then another person that, okay, if drug addiction can lead to somebody starting an innovative project of helping people that are into drug and they are being able to heal. Okay, another person said, okay, I was once a teenage mother, and then decide to form a group for young or the adolescents to be able to educate them. Another person that, okay, I was once a thief, but because of this, I was able to overcome it. So you start a small group, inspiring people, praying with them or something. I think when you tell the story from that angle, it is going to help another youth. Okay, yeah, I can also use my story. I do not have money to pay my school fees. Somebody connected me to scholarship or a big man out there that pays for me. Okay, so after school, I'll also use my story to start something small that will help another person that is in need. So looking, yes, storytelling can be a helpful way of changing the system when we rather look at the why factor instead of using it to praise ourselves. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Yeah, at this point, if we have any questions from any of the attendees, please feel free to raise your hand, and we will allow you to unmute and ask the question directly. Otherwise, there we go. We have two. I'm gonna allow Abigail to go first.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. I think my question is, it might be a bit of a challenging one to answer, but when talking about system change, Sarah, a lot you said resonated with, youth feeling like they don't know where to start, and also not always having a seat at the table or needing experience before they get a seat at the table. And I'm wondering how would you suggest we face that challenge, and and claim a seat at the table and fight for it? Because I find that to be the most overwhelming thing, is trying to be heard and get involved when no one is really making space at the table, or when it's difficult to find people that will make space at the table, or organizations, especially in governance, and how you overcame that challenge yourself as well.
Thank you, Abigail. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, yeah. I said system change. Instead of us waiting to be served a seat at the table, we should rather do something. And she wanted to find out how we have to do that. One, I see a system where, especially in Africa, most policies are made by the the policy makers. That is our politicians. But we also have an umbrella or a system in high schools, in the universities, and we also have a e-governance or youth parliament, where youth are supposed to serve as parliamentarians to voice their plight out. And then such informations are always taken to our legislators for them to be able to act on it. We mostly go for stakeholder meetings and dialogue meetings. Yeah, sometimes they invite the youth. But some say, oh, because if I go there, they are not going to give me any item 13. When you go, you are supposed to foot your transportation and everything. Sometimes such meetings are organized for us to go there and also voice our plight. They come to us, come and tell us what you want in your community, what are the challenges. For me, I'm like, and you are sitting idle. You don't want to be involved. You don't want to voice that. Okay, country broke or country no broke, or we all day inside. That is our term we normally use. Like if the system doesn't work, it is for all of us. No, we also have to be able to, one, we have to change our behaviors and our relationships with people, with policymakers, because we see them once we toe ourselves to one political angle, is going to affect whatever decision we can make. So as youth, fine, we can involve in politics, but once your project is being run, fine, we should have a good relationship. A typical example was when we wanted to run an adolescent health education in one community at Nkwantasa. We went to the office and we were like, we don't have any money. These I called one of our friends. Okay, so what if I bring 200 cedis? You also bring 300 cedis. Another person also bring 200 cedis. So we're able to gather around 5,000 Ghana cedis. We went back to the office and told them, hey, we came with a budget of 10,000, but we were able to gather 5,000. Would you be able to add the 5,000 to this for us to run the project? And the man said, perfect. He was giving us the money not because we have a good idea or we have the zeal, but it was, he have seen that the passion we have for it, we wanted it to work. So we have started in trying to find a way of making it work. And I think after running the project, a month after, he called us to come to the office. When we went, he has decided to reinvest us with the money. What he told us was that day, the answer he gave us, it wasn't because they don't have money, but he wanted to see whether we truly wanted to run the project or we are expecting some money from them to go and squander. So you see that, one, we have given ourselves a seat at the table to run the project and they decide to help us. So I think a person that asked the question will be able to, once our mindset is made towards it and our behavior, we have the right behaviors and relationship with others, I think it will help us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm a bit cognizant of time, and I do apologize. We had a hand up from Ileana and quite a gripping question and chat from Patrick, but I do want to respect everyone's time, and so I'm going to bring this session to a close. Just going to drop something in chat for everyone to have a look at, but in general, I just want to say thank you, first of all, to Daniel for holding the space for this conversation, and to our speakers, Jean-Salman and Sarah, for giving us such great insights. And yeah, at this point in time, this brings us to a close of We Are Not Waiting and our webinars. The conversation doesn't end here. A reminder that if this has inspired you, we'd love to receive your abstract of the work that you are doing while not waiting for the anthology. The submission of the deadline for the abstracts closes on the 31st of August, and you will hear back from us by the 30th of October whether that is accepted, your abstract is accepted, and you can submit a full paper to be included in the anthology. I have made my email available in chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And with that, thank you so much to everyone who has joined the session, including the attendees. I wish you all a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.